Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mask, our first episode in over a year, joined by Jerry Wilgus and Kurt Weidner. Long layoff, and we are now stuck inside with no baseball during the coronavirus quarantine. How are you guys handling the situation so far?
Back crap crazy is a good explanation for what we go through.
Yeah, it's been rough. You guys, I know none of us are qualified to probably answer the question, but what do you guys see as a potential return date to the field?
Well, the last I heard for the state of New Jersey was that if it is possible that they can have a season that would end no later than the end of June, then they would like to do that. So it's possible that we could get some high school baseball. I don't know how much, but I'm guessing at mid-May would be the earliest it would begin. So it's going to be a shortened season to say the least.
Yeah, I'm hoping they get something, but when you take a look at what like Cooperstown did already, which was cancel the entire year, and American Legion just pulled the plug on the season and playoffs and everything. So I can't imagine that Little League is going to be too far behind that. So it's really is kind of unfortunate that all this is happening right now.
The couple things I really don't think high school is going to happen. I hope it does, but I don't see that. And I don't know if we don't have a ton of fans at, like a travel baseball game or a men's league baseball game. I don't know if the lack of fans might help us get out there sooner, maybe in July or August or mid-June. I don't know if that's going to play a factor. I'm hopeful for like late June, but I wouldn't be shocked if we don't play baseball till fall. And I really wouldn't be that surprised if we don't play till 2021, to be honest with you.
I know Pennsylvania, they just axed out all of their spring sports, so they're not even going to participate at all. So Pennsylvania is closed all the way through the end of June.
Gotcha. All right, let's hit we had a considerable amount of questions submitted. I'm going to do the most hostile. I wouldn't call it hostile, but I think it's one that's going to create some tension between the three of us. Who is the better umpire, Jerry, Kurt, or me? I guess we can start with Kurt. Go ahead.
Well, I think it really all depends on what position and what you're considering to be the best umpire. So, I mean, I really think that my plate work is second to none, and I struggled for a long time on the bases and have really worked my ass off in order to go ahead and get better at that. So, I think you're better on the bases than what I am. And Jerry, the knowledge that you have with the rules and just being able to, it's like an encyclopedia with anything and everything that could possibly happen. So
that was a very skillful navigation of the question. Jerry?
To be honest with you, I don't know that you can honestly say that one umpire is inherently better than another. I think we all have our own skill set that we can walk on any field and perform the way an umpire should. I'd say that among the three of us, I don't think any of us really gets a whole lot of flack out there. So I'm not going to sit here and honestly say that I think I'm better than any umpire out there, particularly you guys. I certainly think we're on par with one another. If you want to go on the only thing I could say is of the three of us, I would venture to guess that you guys have more ejections in one season than I've had my entire career. I don't know if you want to go anywhere with that one.
I probably do, yeah.
So I think it's difficult to quantify. I think you could put any of the three of us out there on any game at any time, and you're really not going to see a difference, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think just all three of us are a stabilizing force on the field and sort of just stabilize the game. And I think umpires would understand that phrasing and what that sort of means. It's stable performance and no rocky waves, and consistency is probably the best way to describe the three of us. So good job navigating that by everybody. We'll start with Jerry. What are your best tips for game management? And this is from a travel baseball umpire, so let's try to steer it towards travel baseball. If you want to touch on college or high school, feel free. But
Well, I think that question can be answered regardless of what level baseball you're doing, be it, from Little League all the way up to Division I baseball. Is the easiest thing is don't look for trouble. Um, don't grab the low-hanging fruit and just let the game manage itself most of the time. Guys that go and try and assert themselves as the authoritative figure on the field are the ones that are going to find a problem.
what is an example of the low-hanging fruit you're referring to?
I think that when you look into the rules of the game at various levels, I understand there are points of emphasis, many of which are safety related. But if that gate down the right field line is open, let's not make a spectacle of ourselves and stop the game and shout to the right fielder to get it closed. Let's just play it on and just kind of look over at the coach as he's coming by and say, hey, can you get somebody to take care of that gate? Little things like that. Or, if you see a pitcher that starts out in the hybrid when he's doing his warm-ups, get it then. Mention to the catcher to go out there and get him straightened out so that you don't have to be, making that call. And a lot of times if no one's complaining about it and it's not an egregious violation of the rules, a lot of times you're better off to let it go. If it's something egregious that it's a balk or it's an illegal pitch, then you want to do something about it and be proactive. But it's the manner in which you do that is going to separate you from the guy that never has a problem on the field.
Kurt?
I think it really starts from the very beginning. I mean, you got to show up on time. You actually have to look like you want to be there. I think a lot of people that have problems from game to game to game, it's what they're bringing to that field. So if a lot of guys that I talk to that have multiple ejections on a weekend, it's it's an adversarial type of relationship that they're having with both of the other coaches. It shouldn't be an us versus them. We should be kind of treating ourselves as facilitators to the game and simply just calling and communicating with the teams exactly what we see, how we see it, and be able to go ahead and communicate to them basically person to person, and just treat everybody like a human being. It's people just allow stuff to fester. If I can't tell the last time that I ejected somebody because I got mad at them. And I think the common thread that a lot of younger umpires have and a lot of inexperienced umpires have is that they just get mad, and that it's little things that are going on throughout the entire game, little comments here, little comments there, and they don't either have the understanding of how to shut it down, and it's just that one last little thing causes the explosion, and all of a sudden you're out of here and you're out of here, and it kind of snowballs down, where if you would have nipped it in the bud, the first comment that you hear, I just think people just listen to far, far, far too much without actually acting and letting people know that this is not how this is going to go today.
Yeah. Overarching the ability to communicate, on the field and not being sort of intimidated, and evaluating the comments coming from a coach or a player or the dugout or the fans, and evaluating whether they're appropriate or inappropriate, and then being able to act on that, I think is a big deal. Not putting yourself in the middle of the game, like Jerry said, and then not taking it personally, like Kurt said. I think that's a good start for basically a how-to on how to get through a travel tournament game and be able to game manage, but also probably take a look at our YouTube video too. That'll help. Best tips for keeping lineup card changes neat. We'll start with Kurt. And when it gets to me, I'm going to sort of hijack this question into something totally unrelated, but go ahead.
I think the most important thing when you're dealing the lineup cards is really not to kind of delay the entire game. I know people want to go ahead and write down the 24 came in for 13. Take the damn card out, write a note on the back of the card that 23 is in for 13. And in between innings, you go ahead and actually neatly write the damn thing out. So I know when I'm in the field, the worst look in the entire world is when the plate guy is taking his mask off and dumping up under his armpit and pulling the card out and not trying to fold everything back up. And it's really not that long of a time that it happens, but it just seems that everything gets to a screeching halt. So if you can make little notes on the back of the card, then go back to the card in between innings, or when there's a pitching change, and kind of get everything straight, that's really the biggest tip that I would have, is not necessarily try to get everything in between when they're just calling for a new batter is substituting for this guy.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree with Kurt. When you get that lineup changed during the inning, just simply make a notation quickly. You don't have to take your mask off to do that. I think that if you can't see the lineup card with your mask on, then you probably can't see much else. So there's really no reason to take the mask off. Just make a quick notation on the back of the card, and then fill it out, between innings. And when you get the lineup cards at the pregame conference, if you fold them correctly, then you really don't have to unfold them when you need to use them. What I mean by that is, oftentimes we get what seems to be an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that the lineup card is on, and you fold it in thirds as such that the starting lineup is the one you see facing forward, and then fold it in half up under so that you don't have all the subs. And then once you pull it out, all you have to do is fold that bottom half back under so you can see the subs, and flip the other side for the substitution. And you should, I always use red pen to do my lineup card changes, simply because it's different than any color anyone else is going to use for that lineup, and it's easy for me to notice. If you use blue or black and they did the same, then you're kind of be, not easily distinguishing, what started it versus what you've done changes for. But it really isn't something that should be that difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, Kurt took exactly what I was going to say. Any undue delay due to the umpire trying to get a change, I think, needs to be avoided at all costs. Especially, I see it. I think you guys would agree. Pinch hitters, where the game isn't stopping, but they're making a substitution offensively, and then all of a sudden, mask comes off, big lineup book comes out, pen comes out, and Kurt's right. It's not that long in real time, but it feels like an eternity when it's 45 seconds and the pitcher is ready to pitch and everybody's ready to play, but you're writing on a piece of paper. I mean, I just think we have to avoid that. Write it down, white part of the paper really quickly, put it back in your pocket, and then in between half innings, you can fix your lineup however you need to. You guys agree on that?
Yep.
Yep.
How many people do you eject per year? Now, I would imagine this depends on how many games you umpire per year. Jerry's got a little bit more of a celebrity schedule where he picks and chooses. Kurt's out there every day. I'm sitting behind the computer most of the time, so it's going to vary. But, Kurt, how many games? You did 300 games last year?
I did.
How many ejections?
Well, the number's skewed because I had 6 in one game, but it's but the ejections.
Coup de grace.
Yeah. The generally the lower level of the game that you do, the easier it is to go ahead and get people to eject themselves. So high school, I didn't have any high school ejections last year. I didn't have any in college. The year before, I had one in college. And the tournament games that you do, it's the parents are out there baking in the sun. They had the red Solo cups, and it gets to be a little unruly a lot of times with the parents. So my ejections are pretty much just. I can't remember the last time I ejected a player, and so I don't know. I couldn't. 7, 8.
People at home want to know.
7 or 8.
Right. That's a pretty good percentage there. That's very low. Jerry, what do you got? How many games and how many ejections?
I did about 120 games last year, between high school, college, and perfect game and some other things for you. And I had a grand total of 1 ejection last year,
I can't believe that.
and that was coincidentally a game in which I was working with Kurt.
Oh, was that the check swing?
Yeah, that was the check swing hit by pitch.
Any interest in sharing that story?
Well, it was.
Parties?
I can only assume that the assistant coach was tired from a long night, because it was the first inning of the first game of a doubleheader.
It was the third batter in the
college
second
game.
pitch.
And it was the third batter of the game. And a pitch up and in that hit him in the elbow on a half-hearted check swing at that. But because it was a hit by pitch, I immediately went to Kurt, who was in the C position, if I recall, said he didn't go, and I wholeheartedly awarded first base, to the chagrin of the assistant coach for the visiting team, who wasn't happy about it and blurted out a little bit of profanity that got him from seeing the rest of the 2 games.
That first inning of a doubleheader is a tough one to top.
The first inning of the first game of a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Third batter of the first game.
All right. Next question comes from our buddy out in Colorado, Sean Eilenberger, former TSEUA umpire. Very pointed question here. Who has the better game management skills, Kurt or John? Let's let Jerry answer.
I tell you, I'm going to have to go with Kurt on this one, simply because of the demeanor. Because one thing I like about Kurt is that when you are being insulted by Kurt, you don't know you're being insulted by Kurt.
It might be the best compliment I've ever heard.
So Kurt and I are very similar in that regard. That you can say certain things and they don't even realize that you're calling them a moron, which I find helpful when trying to not call someone to get himself ejected or bait them to that. And I would have to say another reason for Kurt is simply because, John, we all know and agree on certain things when it comes to high school baseball. As far as not agreeing with the things that they want you to be managing.
Let's be careful.
And there are times where you are, shall we say, reluctant to deal with those things simply because you don't agree with them, and I don't agree with them either. But Kurt is more apt to deal with it simply because that's what they want you to do.
I would agree with that. Sounds good to me. No offense taken. Jerry didn't like this question too much, but what are your best tips for running a effective cage session for the lay person out there? Umpires in a cage, indoors, in a controlled setting, pitcher, catcher, sometimes a batter, but nothing else going on with instructors teaching, critiquing, or evaluating that umpire. Let's give 1 or 2 tips apiece on what, we've all done those sessions as both umpires and as instructors. What are some tips to make those as effective as they can be?
Go ahead, Jerry.
All right. Well, I think the first thing is you have to have quality instructors. And you have to have a level of pitching and catching that are commensurate with, the ability of the umpire. If you're throwing a Division I college umpire out there with 12-year-old Little League pitching, it's not going to be of any use to him, particularly. And if you throw a Little League umpire, that's doing, 9-10U, and you throw him out there with a college kid that's throwing 85, 90 miles an hour, he's going to be over his head. So that's not going to be of any use to him. So the level of, the pitching and catching has to be, equal to the umpire's skill. So I would say that you have to set up that cage session and lump umpires in, with the same guys of that ability. The better guys would the better pitching and catching, and then when you have lesser umpires or less experience, I should say, then get them some work in the level that they're going to be working. And the instructors, have to be willing to tell them, honestly, what they are doing wrong, but also tell them what they do right. You don't want to break a guy down and the only thing he hears is negative. He had to do something right. Otherwise, he probably wasn't going to buy all that equipment to begin with.
Kurt?
I think it's important with any sort of training that you have that there has to be a focal point and an agenda to that training. So whatever that focal point would be, whether or not it be timing or grabbing the outside strike on the knee, that really needs to be kind of conveyed. I know that every time we do cage work with people, it is constantly revolving around the timing, and then using the landmarks of the catcher to go ahead and help people with pitches that they might have gotten fooled with or just kind of crossed over. So I know that when we're talking with people, we're not trying to have them have a quote perfect strike zone. It's just the games go a whole lot smoother if they have if guys just don't miss, as one of your favorite words is, egregiously. You can't call a strike that bounced, and you can't call a ball that the catcher, if he doesn't catch it, would have hit him directly in the chin. So when you're doing the cage work, the primary focus, especially with guys at the beginning of the year, or guys that haven't done it forever, or guys that have had 15 or 20 years worth of experience. So basically everybody is just concentrate. If you're only going to work on one thing, have it be timing.
Yeah. I think it's really important to have not just someone who wants to volunteer their time to help others get better, but that's a great thing to have, but also have that person know what they're talking about, which is not entirely always the same person. Knowing what to critique, what to look at, how to fix things, and someone who's willing to be honest with those umpires, no matter their skill level already. I think some instructors can get intimidated by guys who have either reached college baseball already or who are pretty good already. They don't want to critique them and just give them a pat on the back. I don't think that's entirely helpful to anybody. So just having someone run the cage sessions who knows what they're talking about and isn't intimidated to tell somebody the truth, no matter what their skill level is, I think is important. But it's not brain surgery to run a cage session, but I mean, it really is going to be based off of who runs it and their qualifications and their level of teaching ability. For me, anyway. This question, I'm not even going to touch personally because I'm not a big gear guy, but the people at home want to know your two opinions on specific gear, brands, whatever.
Well, I personally, I don't have a particular brand for all equipment that I think is best. I think, when it comes to chest protectors, I'm not a fan of the unequal, the 4-3 unequal, but I have my own personal injury reasons for that. So right now I'm using what some might call a low-end Champion chest protector, but it's actually more protective and takes a shot equal to any I've ever worn. And I've worn the West Vest Platinum, the West Vest Gold, and the unequal. And bang for the buck, that's to me the best one out there. I mean, you can spend $300 on a Force 3, you can spend $180 on a West Vest Platinum, but for $80, that champion has taken 93-mile-an-hour fastballs, and I'm still standing without a broken collarbone. The mask, I prefer the All-Star Titanium with the Wilson doeskin pads. So that's a little flipping on that one. And then the shin guards, I wear the Force 3 shin guards because I think they're for a very highly protective shin guard. They're a lower profile than the Wilson models that I find very bulky. And for a slim umpire, bulky is not good.
Yeah. I wasn't going to contribute anything to this question, but then I don't know if it's considered equipment, but you guys both wear 2 ball bags?
I do.
You do.
I don't know why anybody who umpires any level above maybe 8-year-olds would not wear 2 ball bags. I mean, I think it looks better. And I mean, why not have the extra room? You could put your phone if you bring it, or your whatever. I mean, to me, it's just the consistent one on each side is just way more attractive looking than one. But that'll be my contribution to this.
Yeah,
Good.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Somebody that's wearing 1 ball bag, it just doesn't look right. And now you're piling 6 baseballs into one. It just doesn't look good at all.
With that said, there's MLB guys who do it. I just think it looks bizarre. I really do.
Well, not only that, another purpose for the 2 ball bags, if you have some pitchers that are very temperamental about the baseballs that they're using, and there's a ball that the seams are slightly different. They just don't like it, but there's nothing wrong with the baseball. So he throws that one back in because he doesn't like it. You take it out of the, your right-handed ball bag because you're right-handed, and you put it into the left-hand ball bag so that you don't keep circulating that same baseball at him, and he just keeps throwing it back.
Kurt, what do you got?
Well, the chest protector, I have the Force 3, the unequal. I really like it. Being a bigger guy, having the West vest or anything big and bulky, I just like the lower profile of it. I've taken some shots on it, and the protection where I need it to be it covers everything. I have the unequal shin pads as well, and when I first started doing this, the first real mask I got, Dennis recommended getting the Team Wendy face mask pads, and I wouldn't get anything else. So I've taken some real shots off of the face mask. I think the cage itself is relatively just a matter of style and what you like, but those pads, you can really feel and compress and take all of the shock away. Knock on wood, I've gotten hit pretty hard, and haven't gone down from a headshot, and I contribute that to those Team Wendy pads.
Yeah, Wendy pads also. Next question. My organization in Iowa has slowly declined in umpires and games over the last several years. What does the TSUA do that causes growth in both areas? To avoid any conflicts of interest, I'll stay out of this.
Well, I think one of the things that you do is the level of people that are going out and doing these games. How you go and schedule the umpires to do these games. You're just not reaching your hand into the hat and throwing Joe Blow and Tom, Dick, and Harry out onto fields that they're unable to go ahead and handle. So I think part of the reason that the success that we've had, I think that you had the idea that the best team on that field needs to be the umpires. So people have said, I don't know why I'm being held back. I don't know why it's taking so long to move up. My own personal opinion, I would sooner hold a guy back a year or two too long from moving up into a quote higher level game than to get him there a year too late, a year too early. So I think the scheduling and the way that the assigning is done is a huge factor. So when you go to a 9, 10, 11-year-old baseball game and you have guys that are varsity qualified high school baseball officials doing a 9, 10, 11-year-old playoff game, it says a great deal about how serious that their level of game is, and and that spreads throughout the entire organization. So all of a sudden now you're not just grabbing the 10, 11-year-old kids, you're grabbing the 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-old age group bracket as well. So, and another thing is the amount of training that we do. So, and you go organizations, they really don't do much at all except sit in a classroom and talk endlessly about the rule book. So I can read, I can have the ability to understand what's in a book. And if I don't understand what's in a book, I can go to somebody that actually does. But when you're training an umpire how to do it, how the focus is not how to actually do the game rather than rule 9.3-2 is this. That baffles me.
Sure.
I think first and foremost, the umpires that we're getting, the people that are joining our group, one, they know that that's where the games are. The reason that we have the games and we continue to get more and more of the leagues to the TSEUA has everything to do, in my opinion, with the fact that those leagues know that we are one of the few, if only, organization that actually does put a premium on training their umpires. And the umpires that we're getting, most umpires, whether people want to believe it or not, they do want to get better. They do want to, go through clinics and work on their craft. And the other organizations that they've been in don't really offer that. Certainly not to the extent that we do. And then to Kurt's point about the assigning process, it's not the good old boys network in the TSEUA. I know guys that have worked their butt off in an organization to do everything they can to get better, and they're still getting the bottom of the barrel games because they're just not a guy that's been there for 15, 20 years, regardless of their level of ability, being better than those guys. Those old guys are still getting the games because they've been there forever. And that discourages people, one, from being in the group, but also from even attempting to be better because it's not going to serve them any good. Whereas in our group, if you go out there and you do the work and you get better and you prove yourself, you're going to get the better games. And we actually evaluate our umpires as well. So when you are better, we know it.
Yeah, there's just a tremendous more effort put in, I think, on our part than probably some other organizations' parts, and it requires a lot of time, and credit to you guys for volunteering your time a lot to evaluate and train guys. But I mean, it's a lengthy process to try to evaluate 300 umpires every year before the season starts, and it's not an easy thing to do, but I think it's necessary. And to your point about an old boys style of network, I think the recruiting process of new umpires in other organizations is to bring in newer umpires to work the lower level games, basically. So the older, more veteran umpires stay where they want to on the varsity baseball games or other coveted games, and the new cadet first, second, third year guys stay at the freshman level, the JV level, and take those games that the older veteran umpires don't want. And I think that doesn't give the younger cadet umpires a incentive to get better and stay with it, and it doesn't give the incentive to the veteran guys to continue to get better. So I think that's just a never-ending cycle of mediocrity. But moving on, does a good catcher-umpire relationship play a part in how you call balls and strikes? Shout out to my buddy Nolan Lighty from the Rams. Wants to be friendlier with umpires. Give him some tips here. Does it affect the way you call balls and strikes if you hate the catcher, if you like the catcher, if he's the nicest person you've ever met?
For me, it doesn't have any effect on how I'm going to call the game. I believe that the umpire-catcher relationship is crucial. You guys are back there for 7-9 innings, for an hour and a half to 3 hours. You have to be able to communicate with one another. It's not going to change the way I call the game, but the way we communicate with one another is certainly going to help the manner in which he calls the game for the pitcher. If I'm telling him, where the strike zone, where my strike zone is, and he knows that, now he can communicate that to the pitcher. That pitcher could be used to an umpire with a strike zone much larger than mine or much smaller than mine. He needs to know where he has to throw the ball for a strike. So my constant communication with him is going to give him that information. It's just going to make the game go much more smoothly without a whole lot of bickering from the catcher or the pitcher.
So basically, I think we probably all agree on this. It's not going to change whether you call a pitch a ball or a strike, but it will improve the overall game experience for everybody involved. If you have a give and take that is, a healthy exchange throughout the day with a catcher, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if that pitcher can throw strikes and I communicate to that catcher where my zone is, he's gonna throw more strikes because he's gonna know where the strike zone is. So in that regard, it does change how the game's called simply because the pitching is in the zone more often because he knows where it is.
Gotcha. Kurt, you want to add anything?
No, I go out of my way to protect the catchers. I mean, if they take a shot, I'm the first guy to take a long stroll out to the pitcher, plop the ball in the pitcher's glove, say a couple words to him, and then come back. So I think the relationship that you have with each of the catchers is extremely important, but he's not buying any more strikes or any less balls just because he's a great guy.
Good. All right. I'm already a varsity high school certified umpire. Would it do me any good to attend one of the TSUA advanced clinics?
I would say absolutely yes. Some of the work.
High school baseball?
Yes.
Oh.
We we see so many guys that have been doing baseball games for 10, 12, 15 years that are absolutely god awful. They think they know what they're doing. Their entire evaluation process of themselves is, well, nobody said anything to me, so I guess that went okay. So the entire concept of just kind of getting through a game is so foreign to me. I really can't kind of wrap my head around it. That if you're not trying to go ahead and do everything absolutely 100% perfectly, from every single call to every single step to every single to how you look when you're making the call, that's what is driven home in those advanced clinics. It's not by the time that we get somebody at those advanced clinics, I certainly hope they're able to evaluate a ball or a strike. But how they communicate that to everybody else that's watching that baseball game is what makes a difference between somebody who just kind of does a baseball game to somebody who officiates a baseball game to somebody who actually is capable of umpiring a baseball game.
Jerry, give some credit here. The man is a varsity high school umpire. He needs to attend an advanced clinic.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest question we've had.
I love it.
Of course you need to attend an advanced clinic. Because if you're out there and you're a high school varsity guy, chances are you've had the basic training that is required for you to be on the field. And you've probably had that training by guys who aren't working the next level of baseball, and that's just how it is. So you attend our advanced clinic, and you've got 4 or 5, NCAA umpires that are experienced instructors and have been in those games and been in conference tournaments. One guy that's been to a College World Series. How do you not think that that's a good idea to get some sort of training and tutelage from that guy?
Well, I think
so that's an easy one.
Sorry. I think the funny part about this is, like, it sounds funny to us. Like, I think that's the funniest question we've gotten so far. But a lot of umpires who go through the normal process to become an umpire, and I think you guys will agree with this, you don't know what you don't know. Like, before I met you guys and Losey and Harrington, and I was just doing freshman and JV baseball as a 22-year-old, I didn't even know what I could do to get any better. I thought I was as good as anybody, and everybody was as good as me, and this is it. So, maybe the idea that because you do varsity high school baseball, you don't need to attend any more training is because you don't know what you don't know. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised to come out and find out how much you're doing wrong and piss Jerry off by doing something wrong at the clinic.
Oh, I'm very difficult to piss off.
Yeah, don't come to a high school meeting. Jesus. Next question: Why are so many Tri-State Elite Umpire Association umpires getting into NCAA baseball?
That's an easy one.
It really is.
TSCUA umpires, they're required to attend minimum training every year to even be on the field, but the umpires that are in the TSCUA, a very good number of them are going to 3 and 4 or more cage sessions and 3 and 4 or more scrimmages, and every chance they get to a clinic that we're holding or come watch us work college games, that they're there. And these guys are hungry to learn, and because of that, they're improving at a much faster rate than umpires in other organizations. And because there are 7 or 8 or more college level umpires in the group, we have the connections to get them seen, to get them a tryout with a group. And because of those relationships we have, and the respect we have among our peers, our opinion holds a little bit more weight.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible thing when we work together, we work college games, and the frequency and the rate at which ESCUA umpires show up just to watch the game, I think I think that's our best selling point. Like, I think that is a microcosm of why we're doing things the right way. I think that that never, ever stops surprising me, ever. I mean, me and Kurt had a game at Weidner. I think it was like early March. We just have guys showing up. I think it's crazy in a good way. Kurt, your thoughts?
I think the focus and the emphasis that we have on training, and the training that we do is based off of the mechanics of college baseball. It's 2-man college baseball mechanics. It's not dumbed down. We demand that the guys that are working for us do it the exact way that it should be done. So so when they get the opportunity to go do it in front of somebody else, they don't have to focus on doing anything other than what they have been doing right from the get-go. So I'd imagine for a lot of people, they're going to a college tryout, it's overwhelming. But the guys that have gone to these tryouts are like, wow, that was actually far less stressful than going and doing one of the advanced training sessions or one of the evaluation clinics, because we really do kind of break them down to every little stupid thing. So it's the guys that are doing this are not just buying in to do a little league 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old travel baseball game that who really cares, give me the $65, $70, whatever the money is. They're doing it because they are trying to get better and better and better and better at becoming the best possible umpire that they can be. So by the time that they're doing for us high school games or the weekend perfect game tournament playoffs, eliminations, and championship games, they're already experiencing what a tryout and an evaluation is. So, and they're ready for it.
Yeah, our guys are prepared when they get there. We've been teaching that since the day they got in the organization as cadets, and we teach a 10-year-old baseball game to be umpired just like a college baseball game would be. So there is no difference. To me, that's another great source of pride that we should all have. Getting guys into college baseball is an awesome thing, and not holding them back so they can just be beneficial to our organization, but letting them go as far as they can go.
Now, I know I made this comment to you, John, and was part of the little presentation that I gave at the group meeting that we did, is that the culture that we have is just everybody is there to go ahead and support each other. And I made this comment specifically that I cannot wait for a person to come in, get trained by us, fall in love with it, and have the talent and the skill set, and go on to a professional umpire school, get picked, and I can't wait for the day that we got a single A, double A, triple A umpire that started with us, and I'm guessing he's going to consider himself still a TSE umpire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, what helps these guys get into college baseball is they're not really nervous during that tryout when they finally get it, because they've been to our advanced clinics, they've been to our cage sessions, and the three of us, the way we break down these guys, they're ready for whatever critique they're going to get there, and it's not going to be anywhere near as intense as, I guess I'll be honest, in the way that I'm going to react when they don't do things well during those clinics. I'm probably harder on guys than you or most are. So they're ready for it because they've gone through it with us.
Yeah, agree. Who is your four-man dream umpire team for a quote-unquote big game? I guess we'll call it a perfect game, championship or whatever. Who's your four-man crew? I would imagine if you don't choose one of the three of us, or all three of us, it's a problem. But go ahead.
Well, I think the assigner is the one that should be first to answer that question.
I don't even. How could I win? How could I win with this question? I can make four people happy, and I could make 379 unhappy.
But it'll give them something to work toward.
Maybe. Go ahead, Jared.
I think if it's going to be a four-man dream team for me, it's going to be the three guys in this podcast. And I think that fourth guy, based on availability and ability. Yeah, I mean, there's a guy that I'd love to throw in that four-man that, he's got, Division I baseball that he's getting his time dominated by, so he's just not going to be available for that. And,
everybody's available right now, Jerry. We're stuck in the house.
If John Harrington's there, he's my fourth guy, and if he's not, it's probably going to be Mark Rowan.
Nice. Kurt, who you got?
I have us, and then the good problem that we have is that there's probably three or four other people that would all be fighting for that fourth spot. And you got Mark Rowan, you have obviously John Harrington, you have Todd Caputo.
Yeah. Speaking of John Harrington is a great umpire and a great friend of all of ours. And we just all wish him the best in his current situation with his health. So we're hoping come fall, whenever we're playing baseball again, he's in a healthier state so we can actually be on the field for us. But yeah, I think John Harrington would be a no-brainer for our fourth. Kind of a interesting question there. Not that we do much four-man, but what is the best impression a catcher can make on you as an umpire? Just one single thing that a catcher does where you think we're going to be okay today.
For me, when I get a pitch that's just off the plate, or it's just out of the strike zone, and someone from the dugout starts squawking about it, and he shuts them down without having to be told or asked to let them know where that pitch was, and he just does it instinctively. I think that's invaluable, and you've got a guy that's going to handle his dugout that day.
Kurt?
Well, during the warm-up pitches, I kind of start building the rapport right there, and I can tell whether or not that catcher is able to go ahead and receive the baseball, or whether or not this is going to be one hell of a long day with him out there stabbing at it. So if there was one thing, it would be his ability to actually receive that baseball. Yeah,
that's always a great help. I just think the communication level between umpire and catcher, you can really tell early on if we're going to be have a combative relationship where every pitch, not even every pitch that I miss, but every pitch that he thinks we missed? Is that going to be a battle? And the kids who sort of understand the mature approach of that's not really going to help anything if you throw me under the bus just because you think I missed a pitch. If we can work together and be mature about it, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Having a mature kid who's not looking for you, the first mistake you make to sort of embarrass you or throw you under the bus, or I think that goes a long way for us. Last question.
I think also, John, if I may,
Sure.
something that and it kind of goes along with game management as well, but it's more of the rapport with the catcher. You know, if you miss a pitch and you miss a pitch, you as the umpire, you can't have an ego. You have to be able to tell him, hey, that pitch is on me. And I think a lot of guys, what gets them into trouble with a catcher, or the catcher doesn't have a whole lot of respect for you, is the fact that they're not willing to admit to him that they missed that one. There's nothing wrong with it. We're all going to miss pitches, 1 or 2 or 3 in a game. Isn't a horrible thing. And when you miss one egregiously, hey, that one's on me, and you gain a lot of respect from that catcher when you do that.
I'll ask a catcher if it was a close pitch and I balled it, and did you have that as a strike? Did you have that? And if he says yes, I said, if you were swinging the bat, would it still be a strike? Just to kind of break up the tension a little bit. So the catcher's always going to say yes, but when you put him as the batter.
To me, when you get to the higher levels, college baseball, generally you're going to get way more honest answers. And in the realm of working together and building a rapport together, if the catcher thought it was down and you balled it, he's, in my experience anyway, he's going to say that I got it right. But to admit that you got a pitch wrong, or to ask a catcher what he thought about the pitch, I think that requires some confidence in your own abilities, and that's where we usually run into problems with catcher-umpire rapport. Generally, when that goes south, I think it has a lot to do with the umpire not being very confident in himself. And when you're not confident in yourself, any semblance of doubt or any semblance of you missing a pitch is something you try to avoid at all costs. So I think it actually backfires on those defensive umpires a little bit. Next question just came in via Instagram, so this was not in your script, guys, so be careful. What have you replaced in your everyday life that has taken the place of your considerable time on the field? So, like, it's mid-April, we'd be out there, on a Monday, you'd probably be doing a 6 o'clock or 6:30 game. Saturdays and Sundays, you'd be on the field all day. What are you doing in your daily life at home that has replaced that obscene amount of time that we've spent on baseball fields?
My Xbox is hotter than ever.
You need to get PlayStation so you can join me.
You need to get an Xbox so you can join me.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of PS4 and walking around the block.
Yeah. Gran Turismo. Thank God for that thing. Or I'd be going
around the block.
insane.
You've got to walk around the block sitting right behind you in that mirror with that stationary bike.
No, we haven't touched that yet. It's in brand new condition.
It looks immaculate.
It is stunning. I just want to thank everybody for all the questions they've asked. We had a long list. Some were inappropriate, so we had to leave those out. But, with the questions continue to file in and the reaction to this new remote podcast is good. We will return next week and have the same format, and maybe we can get Rich Glazer into the 21st century here with a computer and a webcam so he can resume his hosting duties. He was sorely missed, would you all agree?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I would just like to get Rich into the 20th century first. I think our focus is there, and then maybe we can move forward later.
I'm going to get him ready to go technologically to host this next week. Thank you guys for answering all the questions, and be safe until next week.
All right, good seeing you guys again. See you.